You're very aware it's temporary in your brain, but your heart has just fallen in love, and it's unconditional love because you're doing everything for this child and they're giving you so much back, but you know you've got to let them go at the same time.
The number of children going into foster care has doubled in the last decade, but at the same time, the number of people coming forward to become carers is dropping. Why is this happening? Consider what you know about foster carers right now. What do you imagine?
You do. You worry about where they're going, who they're going with. I mean, you hear stories and you see movies about foster carers, usually in America. So you do worry.
There are misconceptions about what it takes to become a foster carer and could prevent people from being the stability in the life of our society's most vulnerable members, children. The people you'll hear from next take part in short-term crisis care for Barnardos, a long-standing charity at the forefront of child protection in Australia. These people are the first carers that kids under 5 have when being removed from their birth parents. They provide love for an undetermined amount of time before the child moves on. Kathleen Clark is manager for Barnardos, Hunter, Central Coast, Crisis and Short-Term Foster Care Service. The Hunter part of her title is new, as they have recently set up an office in Hamilton to deal with the demand of local children who need care. While trying to recruit more Novocastrians into the service, Kathleen has come across a similar impression from the public of what a foster carer looks like.
Typically, when I speak to people, they often have a picture in their head that we're looking for, I have to use these labels, in sort of middle-class picket fence, perfect house, perfect family, 2 adults, mum and dad, loads of money, that type of thing. And they often rule themselves out through myths about being foster carers. That's not the case at all. We have carers who are single parents in same-sex relationships, de facto relationships, who are retired, and they're fabulous carers. Some rent, some do own their own houses, some live in units. I think people have perceptions that are mythologies nowadays.
There are people around our area right now, retired couples, single parents, same-sex partners, who have become foster carers for personal reasons, but have stepped up at a time when they are desperately needed. For Central Coast carer Kim White, a love of her local community led her to become a foster carer.
I was in a position where I had some free time, and I've always been very passionate about supporting my community. I've done lots and lots of community volunteer work. I'm a single carer, and I am a business owner as well. It gets busy. I think that I probably do my best work when I've got a couple of different hats on. Having
cared for over 40 children in the last 5 years, Kim says she understands the nature of short-term crisis care and is very happy to be the intermediary carer of vulnerable children at the beginning of their lives.
A lot of people tend to want to foster as a way of expanding their family unit and having children stay with them for a much longer term. And I'm very happy to look after children that have greater need in the initial stage and then have them go to wherever that will be once the court has made their decision. I know that these children come to me very vulnerable and they have a lot of needs. And I know that my role in their life is to try and help them feel a bit more safe and grounded and prepare them to move on through what they're going through at that time. I don't have a problem with them going. You can't question it when you do this type of thing. It's all about the children and it's not about me. And my needs are met by making sure that the children's needs are met. So when the decision is made, wherever they go, I support that and I wish them all well.
I've thought about it for quite a few years, but I've never done anything about it because I was working full time. But I thought about it. One day I just saw an ad in the paper. I rang them up and it went from there.
Retired mum Margaret from Tenambit has had foster caring on her mind for some time and looked into it further after her work closed down a few years ago. After seeing an ad for Barnardos in the local paper, she followed it up. Having raised 3 children of her own, Margaret was already a grandmother when she told her husband and children about becoming a foster carer. She wanted to fill a hole that was in her life.
They were very happy, but they had reservations that it wasn't an older child because I'm a pushover and they know that. And they just were worried that it was an older child. I'd have be in a bit of trouble because I'm a pushover. And they were happy when it was a little one. They're all for it then. So, because it's got me motivated doing things, because I had 2 years of sort of just sitting around after years of working, and then my granddaughter, she was very involved in her life, but they moved to Sydney when she was 5. So there's a hole there. Although she's only an hour and a half away. Yeah, it was still a hole. There's no grandchild around. There's none likely for a few years.
After a few months with Barnardos, she became the carer of a 6-day-old boy and began caring for a baby, something she hadn't done for over 20 years.
It was like a big new adventure in your life. Well, we were very excited. My mother was over here all the time, and we'd go and pick him up from the hospital. It was just so exciting. A word of warning, make sure you know how to use the baby capsules in your car, because we bought it and I got it installed and we went and picked him up. We got back to the car and I didn't know how to put him in or put the capsule in. And Mum went around and found a young mother in the car park who came across and showed us how. And the same thing happened with the pram when we started strapping him in. You sort of just little things you think are normal. When I had my children, we had Velcro. Didn't have all these locks and bolts.
Being the carer of a new life, Margaret says she worked out a relationship with the baby that always catered for the inevitable goodbye.
From the whole time we had the baby, I sort of told myself I'm his grandmother. I'm a grandmother, not a parent. So the whole time I saw him, I'm the grandma. So when it was time for him to move on, you're sad, of course you are, but it just made it a little bit easier. He wasn't mine. I'm a grandmother. So he was like a grandchild. Yeah, so it was a bit easier. And he was going to lovely people. If he was going to someone I felt, I myself didn't like So I would have been much sadder. But he was going to a couple who never had children and who had a lovely home and they couldn't wait to get him. So it made it much easier.
After the 6-day-old became a 7-month-old, Margaret passed on the baby and is currently waiting to take on another child in need of crisis care.
Yeah, we're just waiting and waiting. Yeah, we can't wait to get another one, because the baby, he was perfect. In my eyes and Mum's eyes, he was absolutely a perfect little boy. He cried and had his moments, and you thought, oh, what am I doing? But I had the time to sit down, and so did my mum. We nursed him and just watched him and played with him day in, day out, because that was it. My husband went to work and it was just me with Mum. He was just so perfect.